If you wandered into Mayfield East School today, you would think you'd stepped back in time. 125 years back in time, to be exact. That's how long the school has been in existence. Today, the children, teachers and parents were decked out in 19th century garb, learning about the school's history and rubbing shoulders with past pupils from as far back as the turn of the century. The morning was filled with speeches from old boys like Alderman John Price and local dignitaries like the Member for Waratah, Mr Sam Jones, and the Regional Director of Education, Mr Alan Beard. Mr Beard says Mayfield East has long followed this year's Education Week theme, equal opportunity through education.
Mayfield East has been one of the schools that has been most involved in providing equal opportunity for all in the 1983 sense.
The children also provided some entertainment with singing, aerobics and dancing. The oldest and youngest students symbolically rang the school bell. Mrs Mary Laycock of Merriweather was a pupil back in 1902. She says the children today at least have a variety of subjects.
I don't ever remember having a maths lecture. We used to sing patriotic songs and learn big poems. Probably book writing.
So Leading has those qualities and she's put it into
welcomed the
practice.
book, saying it would be a valuable
In fact,
tool
I believe that it's doing best.
drama.
And of course,
The author, Leanne has been an English teacher in Newcastle for many years. She hopes the book will inspire more young people to explore their potential playwriting skills.
I hope that through this book that the children will get a greater understanding of drama and a love of drama.
What direction does the book take?
It starts from very simple exercises and takes them through character-making exercises, ones that help them to make scenes, and then finally to write plays of their own. And they also perform and direct them as well as write these plays.
Is drama becoming more important in the school curriculum?
The drama has always been important in the school curriculum as part of the literature in English, but there is a greater emphasis being placed on it now than there was.
The payroll was being kept overnight in one of 3 safes in the station's ticket office in Scott Street. Police say thieves forced open this door into the office, held closed by 3 light locks. They used oxyacetylene equipment to open the safe containing the money, but were apparently not in any hurry as they took their equipment with them. The cash was packed into 2 boxes, making it easy to carry away. The payroll was for employees at the Cardiff workshops and the Broadmeadow goods yards, as well as other station employees throughout the district. Station Master Jack Wade says there were about 7 people working at the station at the time of the robbery.
An officer inside in my office and also 2 station assistants on the platform, 4 or 5 guards signing on at various times.
And they heard nothing?
No sign at all. No noise whatsoever.
The alarm went off about 4:30. For some reason, police and security services were directed here to Bond Street, to the old paymaster's office. Meanwhile, all the action was happening round the corner in the ticket office in Scott Street. Railway detectives say it took about 15 minutes to complete the job. But by the time the mistake was discovered, the thieves had flown the coop. I was told today that similar amounts of money have been held in the safe each fortnight for some time. A review of security practices in Newcastle is being made by railway detectives. The State Rail Authority today made emergency pay arrangements for its 1,000 Newcastle employees, but declined to comment further on the theft.
As the mother of 5 children, Mrs. Drain says she notices even the slightest variation in prices and fees. Each increase hurts, and that's why she has decided to take a stand.
Well, I feel that the government, that we have had a wage pause for 8 months, and that the government needs to explain why they are putting these costs up, because no one has had a wage rise.
So you think the government isn't doing its bit to curb inflation?
That's right, because I think that on the whole most people realise that we have had to have a wage pause, that our country is in trouble, and I think most people are proud of their country and feel that they are quite prepared to accept a wage pause, but we feel that the government isn't doing its part because they're putting the costs up, and we want to know why they're putting their costs up, because in the main it is wages, the high cost of wages, which add to the cost of a price increase. And there's got to be some reason as to why registration, rail, electricity, post, phone are all going up.
This is the site at Singleton the Newcastle Abattoir Group has decided on for the new meatworks. Unfortunately, the body that issues the licences, the Meat Industry Authority, has informed the group that the region has enough killing facilities. Following a meeting with the member for Maitland, Mr Alan Walsh, in Sydney yesterday, the Minister for Agriculture, Mr Jack Hallam, has agreed to talk with the group next Wednesday and has also ordered an inspector from the Meat Industry Authority to look over the proposed site. Mr Alan Walsh.
I don't wish to argue the merits or whatever of the case. I'm simply arranging a meeting between the workers who wish to establish this abattoir and the Minister so they can put their case. They believe they have a valid one, and I must add the Minister has indicated his sympathy for their case because he's already met with them some months back, and only yesterday he was quite willing to meet with them again.
Do you think there's any chance the Meat Industry Authority will change its decision?
I wouldn't like to comment on that. I mean, it depends on the validity of the case put by the workers, but they believe that they have a strong case, and it's up to them to convince the Minister and, of course, the Meat Industry Authority.
Mr Steep says the $10 million Commonwealth office block will help the Newcastle building industry out of its slump.
I think it's a start in the right direction. Anything that produces building works, there's got to be an uplift to the industry. We're at the bottom of the barrel at present, and if the federal government are injecting that sort of money into this industry, and obviously it's a job that's worth something like $9.5 million, that's got to create employment. That's got to give other people an incentive to produce. It's got to give encouragement to those people who think that the area is depressed. I can see nothing but joy in the situation where someone announces that they're going to spend $10 million on building work in the Newcastle region.
How many jobs do you think will be created?
We've got to be looking at something like 1,000 people, you know, those sort of things. What we want in this area. It's the incentive to produce, it's the incentive to have work going, to have confidence in the region. That's the sort of thing we need.
Years ago, a group of teachers in Benedict's Public School at Edgeworth celebrated the 100th anniversary of the arrival of the Sisters of St Joseph's in the Maitland Diocese. The actual anniversary is September the 3rd, but the school chose to celebrate a bit early to coincide with Education Week, and they did so in style, dressing in period costume, dancing and playing Drop the Hanky. The two sisters at the school spent the day in original habits from the 1880s, but the traditional rig didn't slow this sister down. And the kids didn't seem all that aware of the historic moment of the occasion. They just had fun.
Good evening. Well, it's crunch time for the heavyweights from the coalfields, Cessnock and Curry, and are they arch rivals? The pair meet tomorrow in the elimination semi-final at the International Sports Centre. Both sides have had indifferent form in recent weeks, with of course Curry going down to Lakes United and Western Suburbs, while Cessnock drew with Waratah Mayfield 4-all, but went down last week to South Newcastle, and of course Waratah and South are in the lower half of the competition. Cessnock rely heavily on captain coach Neil Pringle, and he's been struggling with leg injury right throughout the season. But he tells me he's as fit as he can ever get again, and the team have shaken off their mental frustrations and have worked the house down this week. Big Henry Tartner, the former Kiwi international, has thrown his sizeable weight into the job, and the boys from Goannaland, Cessnock, are confident about tomorrow's result. Curry have rep hooker Mark Winkler back from suspension and have elevated quick-stepping halfback Johnny Munro. The match should be a battle royal, as was the second round, which Cessnock won narrowly. On Sunday, Western Suburbs and Lakes United clash in the preliminary semi-final, with both sides still in the hunt, of course, should they lose. West seem to be getting back to their best as the injuries clear up, and they tell me Dave Howell and Steve Smith, two old campaigners, could take a place in Sunday's game. Lakes have looked good on occasions, but say they've lost Todd Riley, of an important player, although Little Bird tells me he could play. Their key player, though, Rip Taylor, is back in business. The full round on Saturday, International Sports Centre, first grade Cessnock and Curry, reserve grade Western Curry, under 23s Macquarie and Central Charlestown. On Sunday, again at the Sports Centre, West play Lakes, in reserves Cessnock play Maitland, and in 23s Cessnock play North Newcastle.
With the completion of several major buildings near, the Newcastle building industry was certain to slump even further. But now Mr Norm Steep from the Master Builders Association says he's confident at least 1,000 jobs will be created by the construction of the $9.5 million Commonwealth office block.
Anything that produces building works, there's got to be an uplift to the industry. We're at the bottom of the barrel at present. And if the federal government are injecting that sort of money into this industry, and obviously it's a job that's worth something like $9.5 million, that's got to create employment, that's got to give other people an incentive to produce, it's got to give encouragement to those people who think that the area is depressed. I can see nothing but joy in the situation where someone announces that they're going to spend $10 million on building work in the Newcastle region.
According to the Chamber of Commerce, there is 26,000 square metres of vacant office space in Newcastle. The Chamber's president, Mr Peter Evans, says although he is delighted about the announcement and the growth that will be stimulated by the building, this fact can't be ignored. He says the federal government, having done its research before the announcement, would have realised the situation, and he is confident the government intends to decentralise more government departments to Newcastle.
Well, we're delighted at the investment, and our congratulations, of course, go out to the local members who are able to organise this and to get the Minister to ratify that sort of expenditure in this area. I think it's beaut. It's good to see the construction industry and building industry at a time when they could see no contracts for the future, finding job opportunities for 150 to 200 people during the construction program. Our only concern is, how is it going to be filled? And the suggestion is that it's going to be filled by the vacation of other offices in Newcastle. And what the Chamber would like to know is whether the government has it in mind to fill up those vacant spaces with other government employees.
Good morning everyone, and welcome once again. You know, there's a word that's fast disappearing from the English language, and so too is its meaning, and the word I refer to is of course integrity. And let me give you one classic illustration of just what I mean. A few weeks ago on Open Line Radio, I received a telephone call from the irate mother of a 19-year-old boy. Now, he'd been saving a substantial sum of money, and I'm talking about thousands of dollars, for around 12 months, in the expectation of being able to go into his bank and borrowing sufficient money to buy his first home. And he was very, very excited at the prospect. Now, he went down to the bank. By the way, he has job security, and he has more than enough to cover the deposit, and thought that the loan would be automatic. He was in for a shock. So was his mother, and so will you. Let me tell you what happened. The bank manager said that it is most unlikely that we will give you a housing loan, and in any case, we will only consider giving you the housing loan if all members of your family, I repeat, all members of your family, close their existing bank accounts and transfer those accounts to the son's bank. Now, in a word, that is nothing more than blackmail. I repeat, blackmail. And I told the lady concerned to go to the general manager of the particular bank that was involved and complain in no uncertain terms. There is more than sufficient money around these days. I mean, we're being told on television, in newspapers, on radio, come on in, and I'm not talking about any particular bank, and we'll lend you money for this, that, or something else. We're told that there's plenty of money for housing, and I know that that's a statement of fact. We don't have to use blackmail tactics. I strongly believe that that bank manager should be severely censured, if not dismissed. If you meet that similar experience at any time, don't take it lying down. Take my advice and complain, and probably change your account immediately. I'll see you next Monday.
Since his appointment as Minister for Transport, Mr Morris has moved into more spacious offices in Library Lane, Charlestown. He says the Labor Party victory has placed additional pressure on him in his capacity as member for Shortland.
Being a minister and being in government, it's great. The difference is that now one can direct one's efforts to productive things, to making decisions. And certainly at the local level, since I'm a minister and since it's a Labor government, the expectations of our constituents are higher. I'm trying to meet those expectations. But overall, we've had two things to be that have helped, if I put it that way. One is there's been an immense store of goodwill from the private sector. That's helped a great deal. And secondly, within the public service, they have accepted, in my department at least, and I find with my colleagues a similar situation, but in my department the public service has accepted change, and they've showed quite a deal of enthusiasm, and together we're working as a team.
Yesterday's training, which was carried out at the Carrington grain silos, dealt with rescue situations that involve heights. Volunteer rescuers from Merriwar, the Central Coast and the Liverpool Ranges were shown how to get to a patient trapped at either the bottom or the top of a steep incline. For some of the volunteers, it was an introduction to abseiling. It looks risky, but with the right procedure and equipment, it's quite safe, and the quickest way to get to a trauma patient trapped at the base of a cliff. Instruction was also given in the use of Stokes litter, a special basket used to move a patient gently up or down a sheer drop. Under the watchful eye of the rescue police, the volunteers took every care, even though the injured patient was only a rag-stuffed dummy. Coordinator Sergeant Peter Anforth of the Police Rescue Squad says that the training is essential to keep the volunteers abreast with new techniques and also to maintain enthusiasm.
Some of them go months and months and sometimes a year without getting a job. Thank God that that continues, really, because while ever there's no job, there's no one being injured. But of course we've got to maintain their enthusiasm and their expertise, that they are there as a requirement as it comes along and needed.